Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is the work session for the Pitkin County Commissioners, Tuesday, June 11th. It's 1:03, and we've got the first up is the discussion and update on changes to the ambulance licensing and issuance of local authorization to operate. And Richard Cornelius is online.
Is he here?
He's here, yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Ingen in administration as well. Richard's joining online. I just wanted to briefly present this to you guys as a reminder. You guys brought this up during the ambulance licensing conversation back in April. So the state is taking over ambulance ground licensing moving forward in July. And Richard's gonna take the lead on this presentation, but I'm just here to take direction from you back to administration based on the discussion today to work with Phyllis and Jeanette.
Great, thanks, Sam. And Gabe Muthing is here as well. In person.
In person.
So take it away, Sam or Gabe or Richard.
Richard will take the lead for
Okay,
now.
all right. Richard, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Barely. If you get a little closer to your mic, if you can.
Okay.
There
Is
we
that
go.
better?
Yes.
Excellent. Is it possible for me to do a screen share so I can share a document?
Yes.
Yeah, Richard, if you want to accept the invitation to be a panelist, then you'll be able to share your screen.
There we go.
Okay. Perfect. So just to give you a very quick background, as I shared with you last time, the state will be taking over ground ambulance licensing effective July 1st, 2024. The reason for that change is back in 2022, there was legislation introduced, Senate Bill 22-225. That is specific to ambulance service sustainability and state licensing. And as part of that Senate bill, there were two task forces that were established. The first is the EMS System Sustainability Task Force. Their scope of work is a little more time consuming. They have 5 different phases and they'll be working over the next 4 years. They're currently in phase 2. They'll finish with phase 5. A second part of that Senate bill was the Ground Ambulance Licensing Task Force, and that relates to the work that the EMS System Sustainability Task Force was doing in phase 1. Essentially, any ground ambulance service that has a license provided by the county will automatically be granted a license from the CDPHE to operate effective July 1st, 2024. As part of that, any ground ambulance service that has ambulances that were previously permitted will also be permitted and will be operating in the state of Colorado. Within the ground ambulance licensing rules, there's a specific section 16, that is pretty important, and that's what I was hoping to cover with you today. So before I move into section 16, and my colleague Gabe Muthing is there in person, and hopefully we can answer your questions, and certainly we do have a recommendation regarding the opting in for the authorization to operate. But before I move into section 16 and share my screen, do you have any questions, just kind of how we got to the point where the state's taking over the licensing of the services?
Questions from, I don't see any. Let's keep going.
Okay, excellent. So I'll do a screen share here. What I'm going to share with you is specifically section 16. So please let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, sir.
And you'll notice this is an unofficial copy, but essentially this was approved by the Board of Health back on, I believe, December 22nd. And these rules will become effective July 1st, 2024. So here's section 16. This is the county and city and county authorization to operate. And what I wanted to talk to you today about is the local authorization to operate. So I'm just going to read it, and I'll stop at a couple different sections here just to clarify a couple points. So on and after July 1st, 2024, a licensed ambulance service shall not operate on a regular basis without a local authorization to operate from the governing body of a city and county or the Board of County Commissioners for the city or city and county. Local authorization to operate, in which the ambulance service operates or seeks to operate, except as provided below. So here are a few exceptions. The thing I do want to very quickly point out to you is the operating on a regular basis, they do have defined in the set of rules, and essentially any service that is operating 10 or less times within the calendar year is not considered to be operating on a regular basis. So Aspen Ambulance District, Roaring Fork Fire Rescue Authority, obviously we're operating year round, so we would be considered operating on a regular basis, whereas some of your other services throughout Colorado who may obtain a license from the CDPHE may not meet that definition, particularly in Pitkin County. So just please keep that in mind. If we look at this section, the one thing that I also want to point out is that if you guys are choosing to issue the authorization to operate, that's something that you need to do on or before August 1st, 2024. So based on your decision today, whether or not you're going to opt in or opt out, I would recommend that you schedule a future meeting because you're probably going to need to do some type of resolution. Any questions on that section before I move on to a couple other parts of this?
Patty has one.
I have a question. So, for example, in the past, say we have a big event and it's traveling through, like Ride the Rockies, they bring their own ambulance with them. We used to do something special for them to be able to operate within Pitkin County. Will we no longer have to give them a license to operate in our county? Would they be licensed by the state, or how do we ensure that they're compliant?
So any ambulance service that is operating after July 1st, 2024 must be licensed by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. The only way they can obtain that license is they would have already received a license from their respective county, and they would have needed to submit an application to the CDPHE. That application was actually due by May 1st, 2024. Assuming they submitted the onboarding application and they provided a valid license from their county that's dated June 30th, or later, they would be given the license and therefore they can operate as an ambulance service. With that being said, then it's up to the county or the city and county to decide if they want to opt in or opt out. If the county or city and county opts in and issues an authorization to operate, that service, assuming they're licensed and assuming that they meet the definition of operating on a regular basis, which is 10 or more times in a calendar year, must receive an authorization to operate from the county if the county opted in. If the county does not opt in, then they don't need to seek an authorization to operate, and they can simply just operate, which is
Under
certainly what we're
CDPHE.
recommending today.
So that would be under CDPHE, so we wouldn't have to then authorize them again. If we opt in, which I think we probably should, we wouldn't have to do anything more. If they're already authorized under CDPHE, they could run their ambulance through following the Ride the Rockies, and we would be okay.
Correct. Our goal, though, is we want the CDPHE and the licensing would be at the state level, and we certainly would like to see that. The main goal of that is some standardization. It is making sure that, all ambulance services, all EMS services in Colorado are operating at a high level, right? That's the ultimate goal of the ground app, is licensing. However, we still wanted to have the counties to have good control over those services and make sure that there was a system of care, an appropriate level of care within the county itself. And so that we weren't just having ambulance services kind of going all over the place and not having a great system of care, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, and because the Mid-Valley Reefer, what's it?
Roaring Fork Fire Rescue Authority, yes.
They are in Pitkin, Eagle, and Garfield, correct?
That is correct.
So they would have licensing through all three of those counties and through CDPHE?
That
So
is
we
correct.
would be making sure we're all there. Okay, just wanted to clarify that because we're a little more complicated in our provision of services.
We are.
So a
absolutely.
license would be available to ambulances statewide if we opt in, but they would still need to be issued by the Board of County Commissioners?
No, not the licenses, but an authorization to operate. So this, I guess it would be high level. You're authorized to operate around the state, right? You have a license for Colorado State. However, to operate in Pitkin County, what we're asking for, what we're recommending, is that we still retain the ability to authorize them
Okay.
to operate in Pitkin County. So it's just a second level of I don't want to say control, but a second level of.
So we know what's going
ability.
on.
I get it now. And so are you authorized to operate in Garfield?
We would be, right? If Garfield has the same option though, right? As their Board of County Commissioners will have the same ability to say, who can and can't operate and authorized who can and can't operate in Pitkin County.
But
Garfield
now,
County.
can you operate in Garfield?
Right now, arguably, we could not without a license in
Okay.
Garfield County, right?
Okay.
Which we have.
Right. Now, we do, right? Now, the one thing that's interesting about this, though, is that this does not negate what we call our mutual aid agreements. So, for example, if we had a large mass casualty incident, if we had a wildfire where we needed extra help right now, you don't have to take the time to provide that authorization. I and Richard can still ask for that assistance. And now that we have the state licensing, they can come in at those short term,
Okay.
This sounds great. It sounds great. My first question, before I understood that we're still authorizing them, would be that if Ride the Rockies shows up and they bring their own ambulance, we have to know. We have to be notified that they're here and they're operating, so we know that they're here. It's not a surprise to see an ambulance from Colorado Springs roll through town.
You got it, absolutely. So, and that's really what we're looking for, right? Is we don't want to have an ambulance that just rolls through because they have a state license. We still want to know about them. We still want to make sure that they understand our system, where the hospitals are, where our trauma systems are, how to contact us
And
via
they've
radio.
notified the sheriff and the
You got
police.
it.
And the-
You
yeah,
got it.
And you
So
guys.
it's really just I don't want to say a courtesy call, but essentially that's what it is, right? Is they're asking to come into our county and operate with us, right? And that would be the authorization piece.
Because we had, many years ago, some sketchy ambulance service show up from somewhere
You got it.
professing to have all of this, and we had no clue. And I think we're trying to avoid that happening in the future.
Absolutely. And that's the key,
Cash.
right?
They took cash for the service call.
They were just cheaper to drive through,
Right,
drive by,
sure.
whatever
Yeah,
they were
it'd
doing.
be like, carpetbaggers.
Right. And arguably, and I don't mind saying it to everyone in our community, one of the things we're very proud of, both at Roaring Fork Fire and Aspen Ambulance, is we do have an exceptionally high level of care. We have always pushed for the absolute level best that we can get, as you all have heard over the years. And we want to make sure that we maintain that, regardless of who is able to come in. We want to make sure that we maintain that level of service.
Great, great. Thank you. Any other questions, or is there more?
I'm good. It sounds like a good idea to me.
So this will probably have to come back to us at some point before August 1st.
For an approval.
In a reso, John? Is that have to come back to
So,
us in a reso?
just to clarify a couple things, so just so everyone is perfectly clear, the only license that will be issued and is valid after July 1st comes from the CDPHE. So any county that is previously issued a license, that license is really no longer valid from the county, because effective July 1st, the license comes
July
from
1st.
the state of Colorado, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. The county license would have obviously been part of the onboarding application. And as long as that was showing an expiration date of June 30th, 2024 or later, then the state is going to take that at face value and automatically issue that service a license. Now, once the state issues that license, there will be other expectation that those services will have to meet, similar to the process that Pickens County previously required, where the ambulance service had to submit certain applications. They had to provide proof of insurance, motor vehicle registration. They had to show that they had the required equipment because the state previously had a minimum equipment requirement. All of those things are still going to be required, but it's not going to be the county's responsibility. It will be the state's responsibility. So they will be bringing on new employees specifically that will focus on ground ambulance licensing. And over the course of the licensing timeframe, the state will either in person or virtually visit those agencies and ensure that they are compliant with the state rules. And this document that I'm sharing with you, it's pretty extensive, and those are all of the things those agencies are going to be responsible for. So the state will have a responsibility moving forward, similar to the county previously had, to ensure these agencies are operating as they're required to be, meeting, all the expectations set forth within the rules that I'm sharing with you. Once Pickens County opts in, if that's what you choose to do, then you will need to issue an authorization to operate to any ambulance service that is licensed from the CDPHE that you are authorizing to operate within Pickens County. And so circling back to, I believe the example was the Ride the Rockies. If there are ambulances that are licensed by the CDPHE that want to come in and operate in Pickens County, assuming you guys as the board wants to opt in, that ambulance service, regardless of the fact that they're licensed by the CDPHE, would need to seek an authorization to operate from the county.
Heads up.
Right.
If you choose to opt in.
Got
If
it.
you opt out, that doesn't have to happen. They can, I don't want to say they can do whatever they want, but obviously if they're licensed, then they can kind of do whatever they want.
Got it.
Yeah, so if the board's direction is to opt in, then we'll need to bring a resolution, otherwise no action is required.
When do we need that resolution? Because I'm leaning towards opting in.
I haven't looked at the legislation, so I don't know if
Because
there's
if
any
it's by
deadlines
June
in there.
30th, we,
We need to
No,
hurry.
the licensing will take place, it'll switch from county licensing to state licensing as of July 1st, right? Just automatically, because we already have the licenses in place. And then I believe it is August, Richard,
First?
correct me here, it's in August when we have to opt in. We have
Okay,
to
so we have a
officially
little
note that
time.
we're opting in.
On or before August 1st, and I'm happy to read that real quick just to make that clear.
I'm gonna go
So,
to Kelly. Well,
Yep.
unless you're reading it out loud. Okay, go. If you want to read it out loud, fine. But I think that's clear. Kelly, did you have a question?
I do. Sorry, it's a little choppy on Zoom hearing you in the room. I guess I just would like to understand what the process is for the county to provide these local authorizations to operate. If we can centralize that in an administrative way, or if that always has to come to the board or not, would be helpful to understand. Thank you.
We're a little,
So,
yeah, okay, got it. He's got it. Keep going. Thanks, Richard.
Sorry, it's kind of choppy. I don't mean to be stepping on people, but sometimes you guys are cutting in and out. So basically, on or before, if the board is deciding to opt in, on or before August 1st, 2024, then you would need to implement the issuances of authorization to operate. I'm assuming that can be done through a resolution. I can potentially, if the board is deciding to move forward with the authorization to operate, I can reach out to some colleagues to see if any other counties have already established that process. But I would assume that would need to be done through a resolution. Whether or not they would have to come to you every time, like we've previously come to you to seek your approval for the annual license and the vehicle permits, I'm not sure. I think you would have some latitude to figure out what makes the most sense. But I would be happy to see if there's other counties that have moved forward with some type of resolution, if in fact they did opt in.
Patty.
Okay,
Yeah,
and remind me again what
oh,
your regulation is,
sorry.
and the way I interpret the ride for the Rockies situation is we don't have to give them any authorization to operate as long as they're licensed, because they will not be a regular operator in our county.
No.
Technically, yes, because of the fact that they wouldn't meet the definition of operating on a regular basis. And so if you circle back to this section right here, 16.1.1, that's that first part of that. So a licensed ambulance services that do not operate on a regular basis as defined in section 16.2.2 do not have to obtain an authorization to operate.
So Richard
So-
and Gabe, my question then from that is, so they do show up, they're not going to be here more than 10 calendar days out of a year. Is it just a matter of courtesy that they let us know they're in town? How does this work? So we know what's up.
I think that's a great question, and certainly that is one of my concerns, right? Is that they are able to essentially come in here 10 times before they have to notify anybody. It sounds like what most communities are doing is they're addressing this in their special event permitting process, where if you were to receive a permit to come in, because that's most likely where we would see them is our special events, right?
Right.
What they're recommending is that we address it through the permitting process, saying to get the permit to operate within, or to have a special event permit in Pickens County, if you are going to bring in ambulances, they have to get authorization, right? And then that's the way it would be addressed. So you are able to assure that those services aren't just coming in with no notification, right? I think that would be one of the most disastrous things for our medical system if just out of the blue an ambulance pops into our community, doesn't have the radio channels, doesn't know the hospital, doesn't know our trauma systems. It can be difficult for sure. So I think probably after we opt in, or if that's the choice of the board, if we opt in, we look at the authorization piece, then I think the very next thing on our plate is to look at the special event permit process and look and see how we can best address that at that time.
Is there a way that we would put into our resolution that anybody coming in to operate notify us? My guess is as a courtesy they would, but just to be sure, because say somebody has a series of private parties and they don't even tell us, and they decide to invite their buddy who has an ambulance from Creede, Colorado, they could go 20 times before we even knew they were here. I'm just trying to figure out hypothetically, how do we get in trouble? And is that something you're concerned about? If you're not concerned, I'm not gonna worry about it, but.
No, I think you hit it, right? I'm absolutely concerned about it, right? I think this is new enough that we're not quite sure how this is all gonna play out, for sure. I think that's a great question of whether or not we can address that directly in the resolution versus dealing with it in permitting later.
Patty knows.
Well, no, if I have a big house at Red Mountain and I'm gonna have my own ambulance at my party and I'm bringing them in from Creed, I wouldn't know we had a resolution. I wouldn't know I had to get authorization. So I don't know how we can control that one operator. I think putting in his part, which we already have in our event permitting, when you, I mean, if you're, we do that. We do it for Ruggerfest, for example, and we hire you guys. Ruggerfest does. So I think having a resolution that addresses that, I think Richard's thing about, let's find out if other counties have already done it, get their resolution by, as a template, and draft it. Who would we go through with staff, Sam or Jeanette?
Sam's here, or was?
We'd probably start, Sam, with you on that.
Getting a resolution.
Yeah, and I informed Phyllis, I know this was her baby prior to me, so she's been apprised that this is coming forward, and I think she might want to participate. I just don't know how involved she'll be.
So as long as we have something that gets on our agenda in the appropriate manner prior to August 1st.
And if there's a way we could include Wildcat or notification in our reso, maybe that's the way to do it, but if not, you guys know that that's an interest we have.
Absolutely. I will clarify one thing. I do think that the ambulance services would know the process, right? Because part of the state licensing process, they will understand local authorization, right? So if they were on the level, they should check to see if there is
Right,
a
what if they're
local
from
authorization
Oklahoma?
first. Right. Well, if they're from Oklahoma, then they wouldn't have a state license.
Right.
So you would
So
still
they're
have to
kinda
have the
totally
state
out of the
license.
loop, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think there are lots of questions. I think
So-
this is a new process for sure.
So
Does
we'll
Aspen
look
Food
forward
and
to seeing
Wine
a
bring their
resolution.
own, or do you guys cover
Nope,
them?
we cover that. And I will tell you, I mean, I think most of our special events, they, most of our larger ones that contract with the ambulance, and I'm sure Richard
They're
would
on
say
it.
the same thing. They know our local resources, and they realize that in the end, it's actually probably less expensive to hire locally than to have to house people from outside. They know our level of service is much higher than most, and they're going to get the best of the best, and we're part of a system.
Yeah.
So I think that's key.
So do you have an ambulance on site at Aspen Food and Wine?
We do.
And at Ruggerfest. And
And you
Yeah,
charge-
most
have you
most
charged
large
for that?
events between Richard and I, most of large events in Pickens County have an ambulance, or at least multiple of our staff there.
The rodeo?
The
that kind of
rodeo,
stuff?
you got it.
So,
You got
they
it.
won't throw you onto the vineyard horse cart at Food and Wine if you overindulge.
Well done.
And the
Okay.
other, as you guys remember
Little
from the
John.
last meeting, the other ambulance service that's licensed in Pickens County, that's EMS Unlimited. And they have a restriction on their license. It's specific to special events and interfacility transports, but that's requiring them to first notify the authority having jurisdiction, which is either Aspen Ambulance District or Roaring Fork Fire Rescue Authority. So really, those are the only three that would, in theory, be operating within the county on a regular basis. But as I read these rules, it's somewhat vague, but it does say the county or city and county implements an authorization to operate process. And so I think you have some latitude to define what that is. But again, I'm happy knowing that this might require a future meeting. I'm happy to reach out to some colleagues to see if any other counties have adopted some type of resolution, if they did in fact opt in, just to make your life a little easier.
Thanks,
There's-
Richard. I think that's a great plan. I think we'd take you up on that.
Yeah, there's really an
Okay.
EMS Limited. Sounds like a men's clothing line or something.
No, they're a private ambulance service. I believe they're based out of Rifle. But
Interesting.
they're a backup to us, and they do some special events here in the area,
think
some
I've-
minor ones.
I think I've seen 'em.
Any other questions or comments? And we
Thanks,
need a
Richard.
thumbs up to move
I
forward.
will add in one more thing.
Yeah,
that,
sure.
one thing that we have utilized in the past is our local MTAC, which is the Emergency Medical Trauma Advisory Council. And it is made up of both Richard and I with our agencies, as well as SKICO, the Sheriff's Office, anybody that has any hands in EMS. And so we have that as a tool to use as well. So when we get into the authorization aspect, when we get into the review aspects, I believe that we can still use that as a tool as well. So as we get into this, you may hear that as well coming up.
Great.
Can I, this is kind of off this issue, kind of. Gabe just gave me some information about these new devices that are being used. Can I just give him 5 minutes? I think you guys are going to want to
About
hear
the
this.
cell phone device or something else?
No, this is something very cool.
So do you want to do this, and then I'm happy to
Well,
talk about that
When you're
afterwards.
done.
Let's
yeah.
do our thumbs up. Steve gave us a thumbs up.
On my thumbs up.
Yeah, we're
I
good.
think we've got, Kelly, are you good with this?
So, and I have been listening, but just the thumbs up is that we are going to bring a resolution back to
Opting
opt
in.
in.
Correct. Thank you. Thanks
We
for
need to do that
clarifying that.
before July,
That was my job.
before August
Thank you.
1st.
Oh, sorry.
But you did it, and I'm glad you did. Kelly, are we okay?
Yeah, it's harder to hear from some of your microphones than others. That's all. John Peacock's used to be very clear, so if John could just summarize things like you just did, that's super helpful. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now,
Can I give him 5? Do you buy
5
it?
minutes to Gabe to download us on.
This is very cool.
Okay.
Sure. Well, I appreciate it. One of the things that we have added in, and you have allowed me to do through budgeting with Aspen Ambulance, is we have added an auto compression device, which essentially provides CPR compressions through a mechanical means. We've added that with one device. Richard, I'll give him a plug since he's on here. They have one as well. And what this does is it mimics, when we do compressions for CPR, it mimics that through a mechanical device. The nice thing about that mechanical device is it doesn't get tired, it doesn't get sweaty, it doesn't cause problems like humans do.
Consistent.
And it's very, very consistent and just provides just an amazing, perfect compression, which is what we want. And it squeezes the heart to the point where we are able to get really good perfusion to the rest of the body, the brain, the lungs, the heart, things like that. It's such an amazing device. We added that at the beginning of the year. We've fortunately used it a few times here in our community now. Richard has as well down Valley to provide CPR to those that have had a cardiac arrest. And we have had just an amazing success rate with them. We have had survivals from cardiac arrest. A couple of those have been in the news, I think, recently. One young woman, most people don't think of people having a cardiac arrest in their 30s, and a young woman had that, and we were able to provide that to her, and she walked out of the hospital a short time later, which is absolutely amazing. Gives me chills to say that. It is not common, right, that we truly do save a life. But through the ability to budget for that, and I'll say this to the community since we're on, is thank you. Thank you for allowing us the budget and the dollars to put those in place. We truly are saving lives. It is absolutely an amazing tool. I got the opportunity myself. I don't get to go out on as many calls as I used to, but I did get the chance to go out recently when we were able to utilize it, did get pulses back on an individual, did take them out of our community for a short bit, and they survived. Which is absolutely amazing. I'm a 30-year paramedic now. I guess that makes me old. And I haven't really seen that often, right? We don't see those survivals, and now we are seeing them at such a high rate. It's spectacular. So I mean, I would open up to Richard as well, but I think both he and I in our careers, it is just such an amazing thing to see. So thank you to our community. Thank you so much for supporting all of our agencies, all of our public safety agencies, to be able to do these up and coming cutting edge device, tools, and be able to use that and to be able to really
She was
do
my
something
neighbor.
amazing.
She's my neighbor, so I'm like little.
Patty's getting weepy here.
Does it do the
Doesn't take
same
much.
compression for a 90-pound, 80-year-old woman as it does for a 200-pound, 40-year-old man?
It does. It is amazing. I actually should bring it to you one day to show you.
Well, try it. You
But
can try it on.
Literally, I hit a button and it sizes to the person and then starts
does.
compressions.
Oh,
Within about 10 seconds, it is the perfect compression, and we'll do it for hours.
And can work on children?
It can work on children, can work on adults, old, young, you name it.
Well, what I'm wondering is, how much does it cost? Does it come in color choices, and when can I get one?
get it
Is
from-
it something you can just
do
wear
with
every
You get it
day?
from you get it from EMS
wear it every
Limited,
day.
right?
All right. It comes
can't
in a
never be too
beautiful
safe.
EMS blue color, just for you.
I
And it
just
is
thought
electric.
that
It will be incorporated into an iPhone in about 2 more years, right?
We're getting there, right? We are getting there.
Thanks,
But
Greg. I just wanted the community to hear that. I
Thank
think
you,
that's
Patty.
pretty.
That's great.
I am so proud of our
What do these things
services.
cost?
Yeah. The cost is roughly $26,000 a piece. We put them on every ambulance. I can't speak to Richard, but we put them on every one of our ambulances. So we have 4.
Right.
So we're ready at a moment's notice, regardless of which ambulance goes out. So I know that seems like a big number, but boy, I got to tell you, it is worth every penny of it to see a mother get back to her children.
Right.
It is phenomenal.
That's
Absolutely
like
phenomenal.
dinner for 15 at Matsu.
Right? Exactly.
15, you're
Pat.
exaggerating.
Unless Richard wants to say something before me. Were you gonna say something, Richard? You sure?
He's thinking.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, we're very fortunate to also have mechanical CPR devices, and I completely agree with what Gabe was saying. It's a game changer. I mean, it really improves patient outcomes. It just creates a much calmer overall dynamic on the scene, and it certainly just it creates an improvement in our outcomes. So we're very grateful to have those devices.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
yeah, sounds great. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask whether 4 ambulances for a population of 17,000 is in line with the country's statistics or Colorado's or?
That's a great question. There really is not a standard or statistic based around that, right? It would change depending on your population, if you have a healthy population or not. Aspen's completely weird in that we just have such a healthy population here. However, what we always try and do is go based on our 911 call volume. And we have enough for that plus extra, right? Because I would love it if I would need 1 ambulance if calls came in exactly spaced apart, 1 every 6
Right.
hours, something like that. But they don't. They come in 2s, they come in 3s. So we do have the appropriate amount of ambulances. I'm confident in that. We also have enough extra to be able to run that interfacility transfer service to be able to take those people that need a higher level or a specialty level of care to another facility. And then the other thing that we rely on quite a bit is Richard and I are best friends, not only in life, but also in work as well, in that we trade ambulances. And it never fails. Whenever Roaring Fork is busy, we're not as busy. Whenever I'm busy, he's not as busy, and we trade ambulances back and forth in mutual aid agreements. So we're constantly supporting each other. So it really is a force multiplier for us to have those agreements in place. And that goes all the way down Valley, right? We have those same agreements with Carbondale, with Glenwood, if we needed to go that far. So in regards to a larger mass casualty incident, a bus crash, for example, we would have ambulances coming to us from all directions. It wouldn't just be our 4. It would be all of Richard's and all of Carbondale's and all of Glenwood's if we needed it. So I do feel like that we're in the right place for that. I question that every day, especially on a busy winter ski day when everybody's falling. But we really do well. It's really rare that we get to the point where we have all 4 ambulances out and Richard has all of his ambulances out. So just those partnerships, and again, as I mentioned earlier, that system of care is really what we focus on. And we've done just an exceptional job to be able to take that on and do well with it. So yes, and in short, the answer is yes. I
And
think.
so where I live in Pitkin County, but in the Crystal River Valley, if I were to call 911, I get our county dispatch.
That is correct.
But if it were for an ambulance, would it come from Carbondale?
It would. So Carbondale covers that area of Pitkin County. And so they would be able to, pick you up with their ambulance. However, if they were busy, Roaring Fork Fire's ambulances would move towards Carbondale. I would move towards Roaring Fork, and we constantly
I see.
shift. We have this ebb and flow. So, but yes, in your area, it would come from Carbondale first.
And the same with fire.
The same with fire. That is correct.
Closest location.
That is correct. And that's what we want. Obviously, we want closest location. And there are some of those weird areas that Roaring Forks ambulance, even though it's in my district, they may be able to get to it quicker. They are the first response in there. Same way, there's a couple of areas in Roaring Forks district that I can get to quicker. And so we've really, through our good relationships, we have really made sure that you are getting the quickest service available, regardless of the name on the side, right?
Okay, great. Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, Gabe, does the CPR machine work on infants also?
It does not. It does not. There is a size restriction to it. It doesn't work on infants. However, the ability to do CPR on an infant, I know this sounds awful, is actually easier to do than an adult. Where we find the issues is in adult populations or older adolescent populations, where when we're doing compressions, it is very tiring, it is very difficult to do, and we tend to lose efficiency when we're doing it as a person, right? We get a great compression and then a not so great compression, and then as we tire, they get worse and worse. This machine is agnostic to that and just completely goes, and regardless of size, regardless of weight, regardless of everything, it just keeps doing the exact perfect compression every time.
Then does it also do ventilation or the breaths, or do you have another machine that does that?
Yeah, great question. So it does not do the breathing for us. However, one of the tools that we actually have quite a few tools for breathing for people, but that one is very simple, right? We can do one of two things. We have a bag filled with air that we squeeze, and we can breathe for that person, which is a very simple maneuver, and we're actually very good at that. Also, we have the ability of, on my service, we have the ability of a ventilator as well. So if you see a ventilator in the hospital that's breathing for somebody, we actually have those on the ambulance. Typically, we use those for our transfer service where we have to go a really long distance, but we have that ability to use that. But that one is a little bit, that's less affected by fatigue and less affected by movement in an ambulance. I can actually sit in a chair in the ambulance and squeeze that bag and breathe for them. And be very efficient at that. And we train extensively on that piece of it because of that.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Yeah, I was just flashing back to doing all the CPR first aid courses I did over the years as a school bus driver and thinking, well, all the training we had to do. This sounds like really a efficient way to do it.
It is. It is amazing the rapid pace that medicine is moving forward right now is phenomenal. It's so interesting and so amazing to see, and we're saving lives, which is absolutely amazing to see. I mean, it really is. It's something truly amazing.
Can you imagine these in the mountain restaurants on the ski mountains, places where the ambulance isn't going to get to very quickly?
That's a really great question. I think, I can certainly see the utility in some of those places. We still rely on the community and individuals to start compressions, right? We want them to learn how to do CPR and start that until we can get that device there to help. I think the question would be, where do we put them? And AED is, in all senses, it's a very cheap insurance for that, right? When we can put those everywhere, we have almost 400 just in our county alone, right? An AED is $1,500 versus that, $28,000 for the compression device. So I really do think that teaching people CPR, having AEDs readily available, and then having EMS services that have those extra tools really is the perfect system. I'd love to keep that same statement in 5 years, but we'll see where it goes, right?
And it's
we'll
portable.
see if those get
It's
added.
something you could ski with if you had to take it to a location.
It's not as portable as you'd think. It does have backpack straps for us. I'll bring it in sometime to show you,
Okay,
but
we
it
can
is.
tell
I asked about patrol using it because it's so hard to do CPR on somebody who's in a toboggan coming down the hill.
Sure.
Yeah.
You have to ride the
It's
toboggan.
fascinating. We'd love to see it sometime.
I would
Probably
love to
need to
show it to
move
you.
on, but Richard, thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
thanks, Richard. Thanks, Gabe. I wanted to give
Thanks,
you some
Gabe.
time.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
take
Hope I
care.
didn't catch you too off guard on that.
Not at all.
Yeah, that was great, informative.
Thank you. Take care.
Yep. Okay, folks, we're going to keep moving here, and up next we have future agendas.
Yeah, so I've got a few items for you. Like to propose getting back together one more mini retreat to continue our conversations about ballot language, and I'm still keeping working agreements on there. I wanted to propose, just because we're coming up against some timelines, maybe doing a like a Friday morning, June 21st, if the board members are available. I know we're running into some holiday schedules.
That's a
and
crazy
stuff.
Holiday.
week.
This is June,
June,
not
correct.
December.
Correct.
Okay, June.
I was going to propose the 19th, but that's Juneteenth.
Right, yeah.
And I'll be in Denver.
thought we were
and
doing
then I'm
something on
working the
Juneteenth, aren't we?
election, But I,
Sorry.
We're doing something on Juneteenth. Oh, it's APCHA. Okay,
I have an eye appointment on the morning of June
Okay.
21st, from 9:30 to 10:30 in Carbondale. I could do it after
oh,
that.
I know what, no,
Or before that. You're out of town?
no, I'm back, but it is my granddaughter's first play production, and I'm volunteering for her theater production.
Time, afternoon?
It's afternoon, all that Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Got it.
Okay.
And she signed me up to volunteer.
That's what you're there for.
did you say,
Good
what about
granddaughter.
Monday, the 24th?
I am going to be out.
24th, we are trying to schedule meetings with electric plane guy.
What?
On the 24th? Oh, is that the date?
That's the date.
I didn't
Jack-
have it on
Electric
my calendar
plane
yet.
guy, is
Isn't
that
that
you said?
Jackie, isn't that
Francis
John? Have
has
you
a
been in
guy who's-
discussions with Jackie?
Electric aircraft company.
Yeah, I've just seen that they may be in on the 23rd or 24th.
So we might have a chance to meet them, yeah.
Let's do that on the morning of the 26th.
He's not here.
What?
The electric plane guy.
Yeah, he
No,
may
he's
not be
only
in
here
town.
on that Monday during
His
Great
batteries
Ideas,
die. He
I
has to-
think.
He has to fly out.
On his electric plane.
Greg's trying to get him to
Could
bring
we,
one
the
in.
25th, because we've moved our meeting to the 27th, given it's the primary election.
Yeah, I was going to be out that day.
I have Accra in the morning.
Okay, well, let's,
You're gonna- oh.
do you need to figure it out right now, or do you want to come
No.
back to us?
Why don't we, we'll throw some other dates out. What about the 28th? I'll just try one more. the
28th
following
works
good with
for
that.
me.
I'll figure it out.
I'm good
I'm
with
also,
that.
I could do that.
You're gone?
no. You know, I have, it's a personal issues.
You have a personal life?
Well, I do. I'm filling in for some shifts at Mountain Greenery, and the board keeps, because I usually have at least a day during the week, but I'll just figure something out. So if you guys want to do it on
I could do the
Well,
28th.
Send Willow down there.
Does morning or afternoon work
I don't
better?
care.
Does it matter?
I book a whole day, it's a 12-hour shift down there.
Morning would work best, but
We have a work session on the 27th.
Of June?
Yes,
because we can't do it on the 25th.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah, that got
it's in our future agendas.
right.
well, bad me, I didn't read it.
Okay.
You're forgiven.
Then, currently, to give you a little bit of a reprieve, there are no items on the agenda for July 2nd. I think folks have been hesitant to schedule, wondering if there's going to be folks going on vacation and such. We could use that time for something else, or if the board would like to take that time back for yourselves. Like I said, we don't have any.
Why don't we do the retreat that day?
We could. I was trying to get it before July, but we could do it.
It's only July 2nd.
I know.
Jeez, you're pushing it.
I mean, if the board would prefer, we could do July 2nd.
I'm okay either way.
I think I'm here. I haven't, nobody's told me otherwise, so
I
I
mean-
assume I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to get a river trip in somewhere, but I
Sorry,
don't think.
again, we're having a hard time hearing you guys, but July 2nd is fine for me.
Okay, would we like to, we
Sure.
can move that to July 2nd?
Were you planning on being gone?
Nope.
Promise?
The 3rd, I might be.
Not if we're still talking on the 2nd.
Oh, man.
Okay, so.
And then, y'all should have gotten the agenda for today for the basalt me. I'm sorry, we canceled that prep, to do the
We got it, it
exact
was in our
prep.
future
We'll
agenda
just
packet.
we'll follow along.
But, you know, really the goal is to do some updates and get to know the new council and.
We have 45 minutes.
It was a very skimpy agenda. It was
And then-
about housing. It looked like that was all that was on it.
We're doing the Stotts Mill
Right.
tour, so we're going to meet there to see the childcare, and then they're going to present on 2 housing projects.
So we're going to the distillery, then to Stotts, then to city council,
Yep.
and they're done at 6 because they have a regular,
'Cause they
their
have a
regular
regular
meeting
meeting.
starts. So
We do not have to attend.
You
No,
do
we do
not
not,
have to
and-
attend.
chances of our getting 45 minutes from Stotts to when they attend their meeting is
I don't,
interesting.
yeah, I think we're pretty flexible on the second item.
It'd take us 45 minutes to get out of the intersection from Stotts to
Well,
Basalt.
that might be. So, Greg, are you okay if I move on to, I guess we should see if board members have
I
any
didn't have anything else, so.
I'm good for now.
Are we still on future agendas?
future agendas, yeah.
So, Greg, I think I will leave the retreat early on Thursday and go to the lunch. Patty talked me into it.
Fine, I'll cover for you.
So you don't get my ticket after all, I'm sorry.
But I,
That's fine.
But
I
if you
think,
have
John,
one,
I think
I
you,
have Greg's.
oh, great. Well,
no, I
I'll
think
see
you
you
had
there.
one. Greg didn't, you had one.
No, I didn't
did I?
even have one, but you can
I have
what I
one,
didn't
that's all.
have.
I know we have enough. I know we have enough.
And Kelly has one.
We need to be in possession of a ticket?
Yes.
There's a paper ticket, but just hang
No.
out with me.
They'll know, yeah, you can give them your name usually.
They also have a list there.
So, open discussion, just, Greg, are you okay if I just move you along? 'Cause I know
Yeah,
you're
please
all
do.
gonna be
No, I
on the-
appreciate it.
Just move us along.
Few things on open discussion. First, you should have received a email, Colorado Parks and Wildlife Northwest Region Elk Herd Management Plan. That was sent to you by email today. They're seeking any comments by June 30th. Car logistics today. I think Patty, you've got do you have the vehicle?
Cars should be parked out in front. Charlotte was going
I
to
saw
put it
them.
right out
Right
here.
there.
Okay. And so, and I'm gonna be driving down, but not back. So,
Got it, okay.
okay.
So we're leaving you in Basalt?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering,
Yes.
I've got my bicycle here. If we adjourn that late, I can still ride home in the evening. That's fine. These are the long days.
sure?
Yes,
It'll-
I'm fine. The
it'll
other
be-
option is right now, I ride to Brush Creek and park my bike and then you guys pick me up.
But
I'm
I
happy
don't
to
know,
pick
we
you up.
may, let's see when we get out of here because we have
Still have more to do.
limited time when we don't, I don't know what the traffic's,
I'm
I
happy
haven't
to
had
pick
any
you up.
traffic in,
It hasn't been a
Canyon.
problem.
I don't think it's one laned on the way down yet.
If we go soon, it
Hasn't
won't be a
been.
problem, I don't think. Okay,
Okay.
all
we
right.
can
Probably
wait.
the biggie for open discussion is I did distribute draft NACO resolutions. These are resolutions that we had talked about submitting to NACO so that they could include these items in their policy platform. And this was a follow-up to Francie and Patty's visit to NACO headquarters in DC earlier this year. And the resolutions are drafted broadly. They were drafted by Jessica, who actually used to be on NACO's policy committee, so I think she has a
Transportation.
good sense of how to draft these for the committees. We do have to submit these no later than tomorrow, so we have limited time, but really we've drafted resolutions in two areas. The first is for the Environment, Energy, and Land Use Steering Committee, and it's to mitigate the impact of aviation emissions on communities. And really, what it is acknowledging is that we basically are not allowed to spend our airport revenues off-site.
No,
do I have
that's,
that? I have
that's
those
wrong.
reversed. I
This one is
apologize.
to create the possibility of
This
a
is the
carbon
fee or
tax
tax.
or fee to help mitigate
you,
for
Patty.
the emissions that come off of airports.
Yeah, so, thank you, yes. We do have the two issues, I just reversed them. But yeah, this one would be asking Congress to authorize counties and county-owned airports to implement a carbon fee or carbon tax within the grant assurances that exist now. And so that would be probably an amendment in the FAA reauthorization, future reauthorization to allow that, or potentially an individual piece of legislation. But what this would do is authorize NACO's lobbyists and policy advocates to really advocate this position. The second item has to do with what I started talking about first, which is aeronautical revenue use for aviation climate initiatives. And basically, this would allow us to use airport revenues potentially off-site for carbon reduction programs that benefit airport users or tenants. So that could be off-site solar. It could be participating in a sustainable aviation fuel facility. It could be hydrogen hubs in the future. Our microgrid and potential heating district are good examples of that. And so it's really just allowing us to have some flexibility to use our existing revenues. So two different kind of policy positions. One is within our existing revenue structures, giving counties more authority and ability to use our revenues to address climate issues. And the second is to potentially give us more tools. We've divided these out because they have different kind of constituencies and also go to different committees in NACO.
And the thinking is that the issue about using airport revenues, current revenues, off-site for renewables or sustainable aviation fuels, et cetera, will be more widely accepted by counties across the country, whereas the carbon fee or tax, which would be another revenue opportunity for airports, is going to be an opening discussion because it's going to take probably a little more work to see if that moves forward.
That is true.
These are great, and thank you for sharing the hard copies here. I was at the Dakar event that RMI put on last night with Andrew Wishnia, who's the former climate advisor to Pete Buttigieg, Mark Silberg, who's the climate advisor to Jared Polis, and also the head of RMI is John Kreitz, who used to be Pete Buttigieg's boss. And we were talking about this sort of thing, and when Andrew came on, he's the guy who drafted the IRA's climate provisions, and he said, we don't talk about taxes. We don't talk about carbon taxes. We're very circumspect in the way we craft this language. And I asked him afterwards, like, would you consider talking to us about how we might present this? I wasn't thinking about NACO, but I was thinking about how do we pitch this to the FAA. And he sounded interested in, and I'm going to put him in touch with you.
Maybe we can talk with him before we go to.
I think it would be a great idea just to check in and say, hey, what do you think about this? Because he might be able to amplify it far and beyond, so we get some real traction. I'd like to pursue that, and I'll share the info and brief you on it. But
great.
it was really fascinating and kind of exciting to meet these guys.
And Jessica Monahan is planning to attend the conference anyway. And so I'll be meeting with her before the presentations to get some coaching from her too as to what it takes, what it means, and how to go about it.
Great.
And then I'm going to stay that night for their closing reception and stuff, just to be there for networking and answer questions of, hopefully, that people will have coming forward.
I wanted to ask you two who've gone to Washington, I was trying to remember, I couldn't remember the names of the people you met with. One of the names that Andrew Wishnia gave me was Shanetta Griffith.
Yep.
Right?
She was there.
You met her. And then Katie Thompson, was she there?
No.
Deputy Administration of the FAA.
We met the
Shanetta.
other deputy, which
Swazi,
is
which is
Swazi.
spelled like Swayze.
Right, that's right, I remember him, yeah. Okay, well, people to reach out to, perhaps ways we can, it would be really great to present this to our community and say, this is what we're really going for here. I'm super excited about it.
This is really attending to information and suggestions and comments that came out from our community efforts.
Right. And Kelly has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, if Patty will have the opportunity to present on this, if we can help her prepare a PowerPoint or something on this topic, or if there's some pre-work to do through CC4CA to circulate letters of support or something like that.
Yeah, so there will be an opportunity to present. We're going to be talking to Jessica. I'm not 100% clear on the format
It's pretty
at this
cut and
point.
dry
Yeah,
at the conference, but to present it to CC4CA or whatever here in Colorado,
Let's
I
do it.
think maybe after we see how it's
I
received.
can't hear anything Patty's saying, I'm sorry.
Well,
so I think,
your mic
Patty,
on?
do you mind if
yes,
I?
my mic is on, and it's right here in front of me. So
Well, speak up.
I think there'll be an opportunity to present this at another time after we see how it's accepted or questions that come out of.
Yeah, and I wonder, Kelly, what you're suggesting is do we get, do we try and get CC4A's support on this? So when you're at NACO, you can say, we present this to other Colorado counties and they support this resolution. Is that?
Sure, why not?
I don't, we'll have to ask Jessica if that's part of what you do there. I don't know.
Yeah, so we can certainly look at that. And I know CCI has reached out and asked if counties are submitting any resolutions. That'd be my intent to share these with CCI also, unless the board has any other thoughts on that.
And I'll touch base with Rachel Richards because she has presented resolutions on behalf of Pickens County at the NACO convention in the past.
I think we could also reach out just to the Regional Climate Solutions group that we're part of, you know, with Walking Mountains and Clear and all that, just so when we go to CC4CA and then CCI, we've got that behind us, if that makes sense. And I think we have time to do that before you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Well,
Okay,
we'll
well,
see.
we will submit these and we'll talk to Jessica about format and then, you know, the importance of support from
Right.
other entities.
Excellent, thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, what's next? I think next is to,
We're still in open discussion, aren't we?
you have more, you want to share something?
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. The Lazy Glen intersection letter about asking us to do something about the intersection at Lazy Glen to avoid further accidents there. Isn't that CDOT? We can't really do anything there, right?
We can highlight the concerns for CDOT and, you know, we've, you know,
Have we done
been
that?
successful. Yeah.
For
we've been-
years.
That's what I
yeah.
thought. Okay,
And we're still working on it.
yeah.
I've got another intersection one after. if
The
that's-
Hoagland truck.
One of our, somebody wrote a letter, and I think I shared it, saying that they're very concerned about, the first half mile of Brush Creek Road off of the 82 is just kind of getting scary and dangerous for people trying to get on and off of it. It's very high speed and a lot of traffic there. But then also they circled back on Smith Hill Road, and I just forwarded that to Brian Pettit and Andrew to say, you know, I can't remember quite where we left the Smith Hill intersection, Juniper Hill
Well,
crossing.
it's interesting you should say that, because at the caucus last night, Tony said that the commissioners want to build a stoplight at Smith Hill Road and have higher speed limits. I'm pretty sure we didn't
I don't think we
make
agreed on
any
that.
discussion about that. We listened to the presentation, but we
Yeah,
didn't
the-
make any decisions.
Well, it's not our decision to make.
Yeah.
It's CDOT's decision to make. We had requested the study. I think the study, as I recall, had suggested that a stoplight might increase safety concerns there by increasing the likelihood of rear-ending kind of accidents.
Or people speeding up to get through that yellow
Yeah.
light.
And that the likely outcome of a speed study would be to increase the speed limit. That is not a
That's what they
policy
said at the-
position.
Hot Springs, Penny Hot Springs as
Yeah.
well, right?
And so it wasn't a policy position, it was a report out on the study after the request to CDOT.
Right.
Okay, well.
Thank you for the refresher.
If she says it again, I'll have to interrupt.
Also, if you're finished, there's one other, we just received a letter today, just wanted to, so check your emails for a letter, which I haven't read yet.
From,
It came, well, Sam sent it, but it previously.
I got it, and I've read it, and it's supporting our position on the airport. It's quite amusing, actually.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you. Just wanted to call your attention to it. Steve, open discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to weigh in on the Smith Hill intersection. We didn't talk about it at the time, but I started thinking that maybe a roundabout would be the best solution as a traffic calming device. Not have a stoplight, would allow people from Smith Hill to come in easily. Now, the problem might be if there's a whole lot of people turning down Smith Hill Way to try to avoid the traffic jam by the airport, that could make it hard for down valley traffic to get through it. But we didn't discuss that possibility, and I think it should be on the table as a possible solution.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Patty?
We have discussed a roundabout there in the past. There's an issue with Brush Creek itself and the culvert and the ability to actually construct a roundabout in that area.
It would have to be a
'Cause it's so
clover
tight.
leaf.
Yeah.
Aerial clover leaf.
I have one more open.
Thank you.
discussion.
And Francie? Thanks, Steve.
So when Joey was here, I had wanted us to look at the salary of the sheriff, and I continue with my concern about that. I believe the current salary set by the state is $140,000, but the Aspen police chief makes $178,000, and so that continues to be of concern to me that the Aspen chief of police makes more than our county sheriff. And I don't know how we override the state recommendations for salaries, but it's something I think we should look at. I don't think it's right.
Salaries are actually set by the board. You have to do it prior to an election. It can only take effect after the election of the sheriff. We actually have a salary that's higher than the state for our sheriff, and it adjusts annually by the amount that's generally budgeted for employee increases. So we can walk you through that process in the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to keep it in my mind because I don't like the two being so disparate.
I myself would rather take any additional monies and pay the deputies more, because they are really woefully underpaid.
And then when is the sheriff's department going to come and talk to us about future plans? Did you say that's coming up? It's
I
just
have no
out
idea.
there somewhere?
Yeah, I really, that project is fully within the sheriff's office, and I don't have an update on it.
But we still have to approve their budget, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't anticipate that there's going to be any request this year around a jail
Okay.
or anything
Well, I didn't
like
mean
that.
the jail, I meant more employees.
There is a large there is a large potential request. I've asked the sheriff to kind of vet that with you individually right now. Otherwise, I think I'd have to give every department an opportunity to come and talk to you about their FTE
Yeah,
needs.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Outside of the budget. And I'd rather do that as part of the budget process so that you see it together.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. All right. I think if we're done with open discussion, we can take our break and travel to Basalt for the Emma Fields site visit.
And how is everyone, France, you have your car.
I have my car, I'm happy to give you a ride to the parking ride if you'd like.
Well, and we have
Got
to
my
bring a
bicycle.
car. So I'm bringing
Yeah.
a county car.
So
You're
gonna
in
have
the county car, right?
Yeah, I think it's parked right across the street. So you gonna come with me?
I drove. So.
And then Kelly, you're already down Valley? And Steve?
Are we going to meet you there, Steve?
So I'll meet you all down there at the distillery.
Great, thank you. Okay, then, that's it. We are out from our meeting. Thank you, Andorra. We're done for the day here in the studio.
In Burbank, California.
In Burbank. And we'll go to Emma Fields next, and then after that, we have a joint meeting with the town of Basalt at 4:30. where we're gonna walk through the Stotts Mill Child Care Facility.
We're gonna run through it.
Located at 200 Clement Street in Basalt. And then at 5 PM, we're going to meet with the town council in Basalt at Town Hall for an
5:15.
update on Basalt housing projects at 5:15, and then we adjourn at 6, if anybody wants to tag along. Thank you. We're out.